Hey ladies and gentlemen, Casual Crono here. As you can tell from the layout of this video, I'm trying something kinda new. So the most popular video on my channel is the How to Build a Super Boss video. It's several years old, but actually a lot of the principles still apply. You still use pain Grasta, for example. You still use personality traits to make a team and everything. But what I've noticed, because I'm a regular on the Another Eden Reddit, a lot of people are coming in and saying, how do I build this team? How do I use these characters? And so forth. I think the Final Fantasy collab brought in a lot of new players or long-time returning players. And while the general mechanics of building a team is still pretty much the same for people that might be returning from a few years, there's a lot of mechanics out now, and it can get kind of overwhelming. So I'm going to attempt to break it down. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to make one super long video and have like a team building for beginners, mid-game team building, end-game team building, or what. I might just break it down into team building 101, 102, and 103, or just have like beginner and advanced. Don't know. I'm just going to start talking and we're going to see where this goes. But as you can tell from the layout, if everything is working correctly, you should be seeing the Another Eden Wiki, which the more time I spend on that thing, wow, it's an amazing resource, and there's been a lot of thought behind how it's organized. If you haven't bookmarked it, bookmark it. Refer back to it. It's basically what I use to determine teams. I can spend easily an hour just, clicking around, figuring stuff out. So you should see the Another Eden Wiki page up. You should see my game up with Aldo. Hey Aldo. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and use the wiki and then flip over and add characters, move characters, and stuff like that. I've never made a video quite like this before, and I don't have a dual screen monitor set up, so I can't actually see if what I'm recording is what you all are seeing, because I either have the wiki page in front of my face or BlueStacks in front of my face. So we're going to go with this. Hopefully I won't talk for an hour and then discover that I can't see half the things I'm talking about. But anyway, enough about that. So let's get started. Let's say that you are new or relatively new to Another Eden. This is 2026. I know it's not a brand new game, but let's just say that it's drawn you in. I love the game. I love the complexity and the simplicity of the game, and the fact that a lot of stuff is not hidden behind paywalls. I'm a completely 100% free-to-play player. Have never spent a cent, which I feel kind of bad about that I'm not supporting the developers, but hey, I'm making videos about it, so maybe that's drawing people in. I don't know. And so a lot of people right now, I think, who are relatively new, are flooding Reddit right now and saying, hey, I have these characters, how do I put them together? So the one resource that I use on the wiki, I'm going to type it in the search bar, hopefully you all can see it. If I type the word tier in the Another Eden Wiki search bar, tier list is the very first thing that pops up. I'm going to click on that, and if I scroll down, I kind of ignore the Ultima stuff and everything. I go down, and there's this huge list, and I'm going to go to the scroll bar, of every single character. And some of you may have found this page. And I don't know who chooses these numbers. I don't know if that's Ultima numbers or the wiki people's numbers or what. But you might agree with the placement if you use a character. I have noticed there's a ton of 99s, 98s, 97s. They're basically saying 1/3 of the characters in this game are in the top 3%. And I think, what is the lowest number? I've got a few. They're not really zeros because they just came out, I'm sure. So I guess the lowest number is a 50. So on the scale of 50 to 100, the way I approach this list, the people at the bottom are basically people to avoid using. And when given a choice, I look at people in the top. Now, this wiki list is very, very huge, but where the genius comes in are these filters right here. If I'm trying to form, for example, a fire team, I can click on this, and I can click on fire, and now the list is a lot smaller. It's just characters that have the fire personality trait. And then there's additional things. If I'm looking for who in the fire world can set pain, for example, because that's very important, we have just simply inflict pain characters, or if I'm looking specifically for someone who can inflict pain no matter what, ignoring resistance, there's that filter, and I can have both. So right here, these are the fire characters that can inflict pain. Now, it doesn't immediately show you if the pain infliction is like, sometimes if you're on the front line, you automatically inflict pain, or if it's through a skill or through a valor chant, but all of these characters have some way to inflict pain. So that's how I use the filters up here, and we're going to do that as we create some teams. So I have it back on everybody right now. So the tier list is great, but a little misleading. It's not like if you have the top 4 characters in the game, and let's go ahead and do this. Let's grab Yuna. Who else is on the list? We got Ewan, so he is fire and hammer.
What we doing today, boys?
Who's third on the list? Iffy. She is fire and shade. And fourth was Myunfa, it looked like. Oh yeah, she's not Stellar Awakened. I want all my Stellar Awakens first. So, currently, January 2026, Yuna, Ewan, Iffy, and Myunfa. Yuna Stellar Awakened, Iffy Stellar, Yuna Stellar Awakened, Ewan Stellar Awakened, Ewan. Oh, that's gonna be confusing. Iffy and Myunfa, just regular 5 stars. So, according to the tier list, these are the top 4 people in the game right now. I mean, yeah, you could make an argument that there's a few more 99s, but just because they're the top 4 and I throw them in the team does not make this a functional team. Though, personally, looking at it, it's actually probably not horrible. The 2 of them are fire, and the 2 of them are typeless in a sense. So, yeah, Myunfa's earth, but all of the skills I have for her right now, she doesn't have any earth skills equipped. So, kind of, sort of, technically might work, but the wiki's not set up that way. It's not like you just grab the top 4 characters, slap them together, and you're going to go out and beat everything in the game. That's not going to happen. Going back to the wiki. Let's say let's just go ahead and start with what's the first element? Let's just do it that way. Non-type, yeah. Fire, earth, wind, and water. By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Alright. So let's go with... who do we want to start with? Let's go ahead and just start with fire. Alright, so right now I am sorting by fire. A functional team has a few basic strategies. You absolutely want someone to be the damage dealer. You usually want someone who can set a zone. If you are not sure who can set a zone, over here on the sidebar, there is, under gameplay mechanics, there is zones. Click on that. Scroll down. And here is fire stance. And if you click the zone is deployed here, these are all of the characters that can deploy a zone. I'm going to switch over to OBS, make sure y'all can see that. All right, looks like it's recording. All right. See the little AZ with the infinite symbol that is bolded? That means that character can deploy an awakened fire zone over and over and over again. If it says AZ1, that means using this skill will awaken a zone just once. If you use the skill a second time, the zone does not get reawakened. And then if it doesn't say anything, just like Valor Chant or Aisha Flame Serenade, if it doesn't say anything at all, that means they can deploy a fire zone all they want. They're just not going to awaken it. So one of these characters should be in your fire team, because why have a fire team if you can't even deploy a fire zone? Okay, so going back to the tier list, we need a damage dealer. We need someone who can deploy the fire zone. Usually it's a good idea to have some type of tank character, and then you may or may not need a healer, but you definitely want some support characters. Healing in Another Eden is a little weird. When I was first playing, I was using Mariel for my healer, and I was taking the traditional role-playing where you have tank, healer, 2 DPS. Think like old school Final Fantasy and stuff like that. Another Eden, after a while, I realized you don't necessarily need those roles. They can work, but it's a little more efficient to make use of sidekicks as well. So I don't know how many sidekicks you may have access to. I have most of them. I'm going to stick with the free sidekicks for now, because we're kind of team building. And I don't know if all of you have all of these sidekicks. So, alright, so let's go ahead and clear these people out. Well, I can't clear all 4 out. Alright, back to the tier list. So let's start with tank. That's usually where I begin, because it's kind of the easiest to determine. So here are my fire characters. Who is a tank? The game doesn't really make it obvious who's a tank. The main skill that I use to identify tanks is who can inflict rage. Make sure y'all can see that. Yeah, it looks like it. So, and once again, you have 2 symbols here. This is under the status bar. So open up status, go all the way to the end, and there's rage, and then there's rage that ignores resistance. So basically rage that's guaranteed to hit. If you want to make sure that rage hits, the only 4 characters in the game right now are Radius AS, Azuka ES, Particio, and Radius Normal Style. If you want just any character that is a fire element that can deploy rage, we also have Minalka AS, Orlea AS, Kyo, Mai, and Shion AS. I didn't even know that. So basically, these are your choices for tank. This is where the tier list kind of comes in handy. Minalka AS is rated the highest. So to me, that would suggest that Minalka AS is probably the best of the fire tanks. It always depends on the fight. There might be certain mechanics that you want, but, and of course you might want a shadow character, you might want a light character. It actually shows you right here, Minalka is shadow, Radius AS, for example, is a light tank. And that is kind of important depending on which other characters you use. So for right now, it looks like Minalka AS is the highest rated tank. So let's go ahead. I do happen to have her.
You're gonna let me do what I want, right?
I tend to put tanks in the rightmost position. For probably about 70% of team compositions, it does not matter where they go. They could be anywhere. When I first started playing, I had a habit of actually putting them in the first row. The reason I tend to put tanks all the way to the right, there are other characters that have certain skills that buff characters either to the left or to the right. I learned this actually. This is a slight side note, though technically she's fire as well. The character Iffy. She is able to provide characters with blood contracts. And so, let's find Iffy in this list here. This is, again, where the wiki comes in really handy. Okay, let's make sure you can see all this. Yeah, it looks like it. Alright, if you have the character Iffy and she's in your front row and you attack enemies, you may notice that their health drops. And when I first had Iffy, I was like, what in the world is going on? Who would want to use a character that, causes damage to the rest of the team? But, she's amazing, and I've learned why. So if you go to Iffy's page and scroll down to this blood contract area, battle start, blood contract. It activates cover to all party members that happen to have a blood contract, which means all of the characters except Iffy. Attacks that would hit all allies, so area of effect attacks, instead only hit the rightmost ally. This is the reason I started sticking tanks on the right, because anytime an enemy does massive area of effect damage, it hits the rightmost ally and it doubles the damage. So when I was team building and I had Iffy and I finally read that, where? On the wiki, all the damage that would have hit the whole team goes to the rightmost character. So I just started sticking tanks on the right because of Iffy. Now, not all characters redirect damage to the right, but several do. So my general philosophy has always just been stick the tank on the right, and then later when I run across a character that might, provide a shield on the user's left or something like that, then I might start moving around. But so back to basics. I have the tank in the rightmost slot. Slight personal preference there. Alright, so we have our tank done. Now, who is a damage dealer? There's a lot of characters here, and they're all pretty high rated. 99s, 98s, 97s, 96s. I have enough characters that I usually stop looking after I hit the 96 area. But I also realize that some of you might not have all these characters, so I'm going to kind of show you my team building, then we're going to kind of go for a more accessible team building. So, who is a damage dealer? How do you know who a damage dealer is? Well, if I click on a character, let's take Ewan. I look at these multiplier numbers in the wiki. 100%, 150, 140, 150. None of those are impressive to me. Double check, make sure you all can see them. Hope so. Alright. Get down here. Shock Flame. It goes up to 2100%. Okay. Lava Impact. It has a normal, max manifest, and true manifest. Normal is 3000%. Sounds kind of high. If you max out the manifest, it goes up to 3780. Okay, again, not high, or not super low, I mean. True manifest unlocked, 11,340%. It's over 9,000, people. That is high. Pretty much once I start hitting 6,000 modifier, 7,000, 8,000 modifier, that tells me that that skill can do lots of damage. Now, there's a little caveat with this. Lava Impact is just a normal, active skill. I can use it whenever I want. If the highest damage modifier is under Stellar Awakened, and only happens during a burst, then that you can't spam that over and over and over again. You can only spam it when you have the stellar burst gauge full. So I don't necessarily ignore these multipliers, because in Ewan's case, for example, his stellar skill, Eruption, let's go back to normal. It's a blunt attack on a single enemy, and it starts off at 200%. If he's in Vital Flame mode, it says, it will consume all of his health pretty much, but multiply it by 50%. So that's where it can be up to 10,000%. And that's not during a stellar burst. All of this happens just every single time you use that skill. What happens in his case when he bursts, he deploys Fire Zone, he reawakens it, and it says here it restores all of his health, and it does not use up Vital Flame mode. So you could spam Eruption if you really wanted to, but it's going to end Vital Flame mode, which would then end all of the multiplier. So yeah, 10,000 is really, really high, but that would, and yes, it does a lot of damage, but I wouldn't consider that a damage dealer, because basically you can only use it once. However, Lava Impact, if you have his true manifest unlocked, that can be spammed over and over and over and over again. It does not use up his Vital Flame mode. What it does do is, you can see here, he takes damage, and he will attack again until his hit points drop below 50%. So if it does 20% damage, 20%, 40%, you can probably squeak out 3 attacks at a time if he starts off at full health. So to me, once I see a modifier at this high level, I pretty much peg this person as a damage dealer. So Ewan would be an example of a damage dealer. And we also can look at Destruction. Destruction, not much damage there. All right, so that's Ewan. If I click on Iffy, I look again at the modifiers. 450, NA, 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 1350, kind of on the low end. NA again, I don't see any super high numbers. If I click on Passives, no damage modifiers. She's not Stellar Awakened. There is nothing standing out to me on Iffy's page that screams, I'm a damage dealer. In fact, a lot of these NAs are pretty indicative of I'm a support character. Alright, so then I just keep going down the list. Manalka AS. 2400 mod, 4200 mod, 4480, 3000. That's telling me that Manalka can be set up for damage, not as much as Ewan, but not horrible. These are conditional. You'll see that these are ranges, 200% to 3000%. So it depends in her case on if Heartfire stacks are over 50, then it multiplies by a whole lot. So if there aren't many Heartfire stacks, she's doing the 200% range. So a lot of these are kind of conditional. Continuing to go down the list, Rinri AC, very high ranked character. NA, 140, NA, 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 NA. If you haven't already figured it out, all those NAs, I'm starting to think support. There's one, Trigger Rush, that can go up to 3000%. Another NA. I check her Stellar Awakened. Oh, check this out. 0 to 9,000. And Enhanced, 11,250. Alright, that sounds great. Alright, let's take a look at this one. Can I spam this one in like an AF burst? It says critical damage, 50%. That's not damage. If Trigger Rush is learned, it does Trigger Rush, which hits 3 times with an XXL modifier. Gives Barrier Pierce to people. And then here's the catch. When used during Stellar Burst, the multiplier of Trigger Rush is doubled. So if I'm not bursting every single turn, it's not doing that 11,250. It's doing less, which it still sounds like it's doing pretty decent on less, but... So she's an example of a character that could be really damaging during a stellar burst, but if you don't damage during a stellar burst, her damage is weakened. So with all these NAs and mostly low modifiers, to me that's telling me that Rinri is a support character. Linaria. Scroll down, multipliers, 100, 300, 140, 160, 600, 120 to 600. Only one, final slice, it goes up to 4,000. Alright, what's the catch? Alright, skill multiplier increases the closer she is to max MP. So if her max MP is full, then she gets the full 4,000%. If she's at half MP, then I'm guessing she's probably around 2,000%. And nothing else here. So she could be a damage dealer, but it's conditional on is she at full MP all the time. But the rest of her skills, the low modifiers, to me, again, are starting to shout support. So I'm not going to go through every single fire character, but that's kind of what I use. I'm not saying I'm doing it the best way, but it's been working for me so far. I've killed lots of things. So when you click on a character, so Rosetta, scroll down, look at the multipliers. 80, 80, 110, 4,000, 110, 720, 150. Nothing here, aside from that 4,000, are really standing out. Well, let's take a look at that 4,000. Can I spam it? When all frontline allies have 3 catharsises stacked, then it's at its most powerful. Alright, what's a catharsis? I have no idea, so I kind of look around to see if the word catharsis is anywhere else. I check Stellar Awakened skills. Alright, looks like redemption. I see the word catharsis again. Alright, so it consumes all confessions and then stacks catharsis equal to how many confessions are consumed. At this point, I've kind of started to tune out the wiki. I'm like, this sounds kind of confusing. I just want to be able to click a skill and do massive amounts of damage. And it sounds like there's a little bit of setup in Rosetta's case. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? None of the other skills looked powerful, and that one takes some setup. Whereas someone like Ewan, as long as I have that true manifest unlocked, and as long as I can keep his health up, he's doing massive amounts of damage. So I'm kind of pegging Rosetta as support. Okay, so go through, click a character. All right, quick quiz. All right, Palm AS. And we're waiting for it to load. There it goes. All right. 80, 140, 110, 110, 2400 NA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, is this character a tank? Is it a damage dealer? Or is she a support character? Cue some music. Don't want to get in trouble with copyright. All right, time's up. With these low modifiers, aside from one single skill, she's most likely support. There's no rage listed anywhere, so to me, she's not a tank. And the modifiers are all suggesting that she is a support character. Alright, so going back now to my team. We know that Ewan is a damage dealer. So we'll go ahead and include him. I said the basics for a team are 1 tank, 1 damage dealer, and 2 support characters. Alright, so we can now identify who are tanks and who are damage dealers. So all we need now is support. When I turn back to the wiki, I look at the people who are at the top. Iffy, Rinri, Linaria, Rosetta, and keep going down the list. So who would be the best support character? This is where it really helps to understand personality traits, skills, and so forth. So we have chosen Ewan as our tank. Let's open up his page in the wiki. Alright, what is the deal with Ewan? So we click on Stellar Awakened skills. If he's Stellar Awakened, to read more about them, I immediately just open up everything as enhanced. I go to his main skills. I open up, so I have his True Manifest unlocked, so I can kind of see everything at once. Alright, if he is the damage dealer, and Lava Impact is his highest modifier attack that I can definitely spam in an AF burst, I want to try and get that 11,000 in use all the time. So what is the requirement? He has to be in Vital Flame mode, and he has to have HP in order to continue attacking over and over again. Alright, we're going to attack this in 2 steps. What is Vital Flame mode? I don't know. Do I see the word Vital Flame mode? Aha. Vital Flame mode. State is activated when there are 3 or more shadow allies on the front line. Okay. State ends when there are less than 3 shadow allies on the front line. The only way that's going to happen is if I put some light characters in the front line, or if there are knockbacks. And I can't control knockbacks. So I can just use the icons right here to see who is light and who is shadow. And I can see that Iffy is shadow, Minalka is shadow, Renri is shadow, Rosetta is shadow, Xion ASAC is shadow. Or I can use the filters up here. There is a light and shadow filter. So if I click on shadow, there. These are all of the fire shadow characters available to me. So I have to have 3 shadow characters. Well, looking at the team, we have Minalka, she's shadow. We have Ewan, he's shadow. So I really only need 1 more shadow character. Iffy is at the top of the tier chart. So is Renri. Rosetta's up there. Xion ACAS is up there. Dewey ACAS is up there. Sukiya is up there. Thalil Lily. And so forth. So those are the people that I target next. Well, who do I have access to? Well, obviously, I have Iffy. So staff fire. So I could throw in Iffy. And I need another character. Now the 4th character is somewhat dependent. I need a way to make sure that he stays at full health. And there's a few ways to do this. I could look for an actual healer. So I could go around and click each character. I could read their descriptions. I see Fair Trial restores parties HP a little bit. Codex. Biblia restores all party members hit points a lot. Restores some MP and gives some other things. So that would tell me. Oh yeah, staff fire, they're already. Rosetta might be a good choice. She can keep him healed. She is a support character. So this team could be functional. Going back to the wiki. Going straight down the list. Renri AC. Click on her. Alright, let's see. She has a party regen, it looks like. I usually just scroll down to the bottommost skills because those are the most advanced. Let's see. Anything here about healing? No. Anything here about healing? No. The Blaze Up, Blast Up, and Boom Up. Usually there's 3 skills that sound very similar. That's the unique skill that character has, and that you can usually, they're like improvements over each other. So you don't want to equip Blaze Up and Blast Up at the same time because they basically do the same thing, only the most advanced skill does more. So Blaze Up, I look on that one. I don't see anything about healing. Trigger Rush, I look at this one. Restore all party members' health by 30%. Okay, so she can heal. So going back to the game, I could find Renri and use her.
Yeah,
She's Shadow.
story.
So there's a full Shadow team with Rosetta. It's a full Shadow team. Technically, I only need 3 Shadow users. So I could, on the wiki, go ahead and turn back on all the light characters and look for any light users that provide healing. So it's kind of sort of up to you how to approach this. But how did we get here? I chose my damage dealer. I'm going all in on Ewan, and I read Ewan's skills, specifically the one that I'm going to use the most, Lava Impact. I look at the requirements for that skill, and I find support characters who can hopefully allow me to keep those requirements going at all times. Make sense? Hopefully that's making sense. Oh yeah, these are fist users. So the 4th character technically doesn't have to be Shadow, but just in case one person is knocked back, that still leaves 3 Shadow users in the front line. So if all 4 characters are Shadow, then one single knockback will not knock him out of Vital Flame mode. Okay? So now, now that we have our team, what do we do about the reserves? This is where we look at abilities and the personality traits. We always build around the damage dealer. The damage dealer is like the star of the show. Everyone else is just there to make sure the damage dealer lives, is buffed, and does damage. Okay, so if you go to the wiki, let's go back up to Ewan and make sure that you all can see this on the screen. Looks like it. The personality traits are also listed on the wiki. Glasses, Sweet Tooth, Minor, Hammer, Weapons, Cursed, and Fire. Some of them have little Grasta symbols next to them. That means that there is a Grasta out there that can buff that personality trait. There is an Almighty Power Glasses Grasta. There's an Almighty Power Sweet Tooth Grasta. There is nothing for Minor. That means it doesn't matter if I pair him up with other minors, there's going to be no benefit for that. And obviously there's a bunch of Fire Grasta and Hammer Grasta as well. The element and the weapon are usually givens. Then you look down here, overlapping. Suzette ES overlaps with him on 3 personality traits. So does Renri, so does CL, May, and Melina. And it shows you right here, May, for example, is a Hammer user. If I click on May and look at her personality traits, she is also Glasses and Hammer. She happens to be Earth, so you wouldn't immediately think, well, this is a fire team, why would I want an Earth user? The reserves, we don't care what element they are, we care about what Grasta they can equip that will support the damage dealer. Okay. So let's look at Renri and Suzette. So regular style Renri, she is Glasses, she is Sweet Tooth, and she happens to be Fire. So going back to the team, Glasses and Sweet Tooth. Let's find Renri.
To the scene of the crime.
Sweet Tooth, X, COA, Fire. I did not see Glasses in there. So what's going on with that? Well, we're going to look back at the wiki. You see how Glasses has a little asterisk next to it? That is after clearing her AS quest. If you move the mouse over it, you'll see the requirements. Hopefully that is popping up on the screen. So, have I cleared the AS quest? No, because I don't have her AS style. So until I do that, she is not wearing Glasses for me. So the only Grasta that she can equip, if I go to Personalities, is the Sweet Tooth Grasta. Which isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with that, but we want to try and max out Ewan as much as possible. So we go back to the list. Who else overlaps? Suzette ES. Actually, do I have Suzette ES? I'm not even sure. Let's see, Lance and Wind. I have her AS. Nope, I don't have her ES. Alright, so for me, Suzette ES is not an option. Renry is missing a personality trait. So technically she's at 2 instead of 3. So then I look at hammer users. I usually prefer to match hammer users with the reserves. Well, CL is gotcha. Melina is gotcha. May is gotcha, but May pops up all the time. Most of you all probably have a May. So I'm going to grab May. So she is a hammer user. And there she is. Her level does not matter. Could be a level 1. Don't care. All she is there for is to hold Grasta. So personality traits. Click on all. Click on personality. If you have the personality trait fully awakened, it has to have that orangish color to it. Then that's considered a shareable Grasta. Right there, it says type attack for all glasses users. That little P symbol means it's being shared for all glasses users. If it is not the orange and you don't see that little P there, then the Grasta is basically worthless for Ewan unless you equip it on Ewan, which you pretty much never want to do. So, May right now is buffing Ewan's damage by 25%. So, why? Because they're both glasses users. So that leaves Sweet Tooth, and then of course all the hammer and fire type Grastas. So we need a Sweet Tooth personality. If you don't want to refer to the wiki, the game has gotten a little better about sorting. If I go to the filter and go scroll down to personality filters, I can activate Sweet Tooth, which I might already have activated. I haven't looked. There it is. So that means if I go down here and click on Sweet Tooth and remove hammer, all of these characters are the ones that I have access to that have a Sweet Tooth. So which do I use? Technically, any of them would work. Since Ewan is fire and hammer, I tend to choose people that are both that have one or the other. It's not required, but Renry is fire and a Sweet Tooth, so could use Renry. Is Kula fire? No, she's water. And CL and Melina are both hammer users. It looks like they're the only hammer users. So in my case, I would either gravitate, I can sort by fire. I would choose one of them if I was going the fire route. Or one of them if I was going the hammer route. And it's kind of up to you just who you have access to. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab CL. If I go to equip, just clear his stuff. If I go to Grasta, all, personality. If I have the Sweet Tooth Grasta, and if it's fully awakened, I can equip it. And now CL is improving Ewan's type damage by 25%. So that's kind of how the reserves support the main character. So you find shareable Grasta that they can equip. So we actually have a team here. I'm not going about sidekicks right now. So we're in Nagsham. Actually, I'm not sure if they're equipped with anything or not. Kind of, sort of. Nothing. Nothing. Okay. So they're mostly unequipped. Let's just see if the team functions. Because, yeah, we can throw together the fire characters. It sounds all good and everything, but, you know, will it work will they complement each other?
Got a death wish? Get in line.
So you saw that Ewan kind of burst into flame there. That's his vital flame mode. And that's because we have 4 shadow users. They took damage, and that's because Iffy is in the team as well. So Ewan is not at full health, and we want him to be in full health. So we know that Biblia restores health. We know we can use skills to like buff up Ewan. We want to maximize lava impact. And in her case, we want the rage skill, which in her case is Doom. So turn number 1, the tank is deploying rage, the damage dealer is damaging, we have Iffy buffing, and we have Rosetta healing. Rosetta healed before Ewan went, so he does have health. And he did some damage. He only attacked once, however. Alright, turn 2. We can keep attacking with him. We've already buffed, so we could maybe attack with her. And we have the restore going. So we could restore again. We could perhaps improve fire type attacks. So let's try that one. Or we could just stack a confession. So let's go ahead and improve fire type attacks. We want to try and buff Ewan, right? He's the damage dealer. And you'll see that even without a weapon equipped, he just did 5 million per hit on Bag Batty. But he's still not like attacking multiple times. Alright, and the team's health is staying kind of low. So we need to heal again, because if this was a real boss, of course, the boss would be attacking us. Let's go ahead and throw on Pain and Poison. Let's look at his other skills. We could reduce fire resistance. We could improve his power. Well, he's a damage dealer. Let's go ahead and improve his power. And we'll make sure that rage stays on, because I'm looking at this over here. I don't see rage. Your tank should always be keeping an eye out to make sure that rage is up. Alright, 2 turns left. We are no longer in a fire zone. Uh-oh, we need to redeploy a fire zone. Aha, in Stellar Burst, she can deploy a fire zone. Oh, we can't burst yet. That could be a problem. Alright, can anyone else deploy a fire zone? Aha, in Stellar Burst. He can deploy a fire zone. Well, still can't Stellar Burst. Alright. She can deploy a Shade Zone. Not helpful. Alright, Fire Zone, come on, Fire Zone. No Fire Zone. Alright, so an immediate flaw that I notice is that I don't have a way to put a Fire Zone back up unless I can Stellar Burst. So, I'll just attack. Go ahead and rebuff. And keep healing. Okay, he did more damage that time. Aha, now we can Stellar Burst. Alright, we need the fire zone, so we can either deploy it with this one, or we can deploy it with this one. Your choice. We'll just go ahead and use both.
I'll cut you to shreds, piece by piece. Pathetic.
And Ewan's damage was so powerful, he broke Bag Batty. But it took him 5 turns. And if you read Reddit, if you're on Discord, everyone's like, Ewan is amazing, he does massive amounts of damage. Yeah, he broke Bag Batty and did damage there at the end, but that was a long time to kind of build up, and we lost Fire Zone, and we couldn't put it back right away. Like, I recognized immediate issues with this team. So we're going to correct those. And we're going to restore our health and MP in the process.
Hook me up
See, if I was teaching a lesson right now, I would stop and ask and say, hey, y'all following me so far? Yes? No? But unfortunately, I can't do that. So in the comments below, feel free to ask questions. Because as I said, I'm kind of winging this. This is kind of a new approach for how to build a team. And I am very happy to answer questions if we need to. All right, so we have kind of a team here. Okay, let's turn back to the wiki. Okay, we need fire zone. So we go down to gameplay mechanics, zones, and we click on here. All right, we go to fire. Make sure that everything still shows up. Looks like it. Open up. All right, here are all the characters that can deploy a fire zone. All right, Manalka can. We know that through the burst. Ewan can. We know that through the burst. Rosetta can with prosecute. Okay. Rosetta AS has prosecute as well. Oh, okay. Does she have prosecute? Let's take a look. Aha! Okay, so do I want to give up a skill here so that she can do a fire attack, or deploy fire zone? Well, let's look at what else we got. We have Plea of Guilt, which stacks confessions, which reduces the enemy's power, reduces fire resistance. It looks like it stacks 3 times. Okay, that looks kind of nice. You know, Ewan does fire damage. We want to max him out, so reducing fire resistance is one way to do that. All right, let's see. Biblia. All right. So Biblia restores health, restores MP, gives a damage barrier, status immunity. That's kind of nice. We want Ewan to be at full health. We did notice an issue that sometimes she went before Ewan, and sometimes Ewan went before her. So that's kind of an issue. It wasn't super reliable. Let's see what scales of Themis. Improves fire attack, improves fire resistance, and she will do a fire attack times 4 XXL 20%. Okay, that sounds pretty high. Is it really? Well, let's double check. Go to Rosetta's page. And that was Scales of Themis. All right, if I stack 3 Catharsis, 4,000% mod. That's not bad. But you have to stack that Catharsis, so. Alright, so what do we give up in order to deploy a fire zone? That's kind of a tough one. So there's, I guess, if we give up Plea of Guilt, we can no longer stack confessions. So I'm not really sure. So then the other question is, can the other characters deploy a fire zone? So let's go back to fire zones. We know Ewan can with another zone, with a stellar burst. Is there any other skill that he has? No. Manalka, is there any other skill? She can with her Valor Chant. But it looks like that's it. All right, Iffy, we know, can't. She does Shade. So is there anyone else that might be worthwhile? So Aisha, Flame Serenade, Annabelle ES, Nadir Pierce. So I just spent some time on the wiki kind of looking to see, are Rosetta and Iffy the best choices as partners for her, for Ewan? Let's see, anything with a Valor Chant I kind of sort of dismiss right away, because I'm not going to have someone hop in the back row and then hop back in the front row just for a fire zone. So if we ignore all the Valor Chants, Rosetta's Prosecute is definitely an option. Aisha's Flame Serenade is definitely an option. Cyrus does have a fire circle. Annabelle ES has an attack skill. And looks like that's a Valor chance. So those would kind of be the 4 directions I would lean, or I would just make sure that I can fill up the Stellar Burst gauge and have it more or less on demand. So those are kind of my options. So let's do the Stellar Burst option. In order to keep the Stellar Burst gauge going, do I have any additional fire users that are Stellar Awakened on my team? Aha! Annabelle ES is 1. Lenaria is 1. Renry is 1. In fact, let's just go ahead. Oh, these are all fire. Perfect. Alright, so pretty much everyone you see here is Stellar Awakened, which means all of them can fill up the Stellar Burst gauge faster. Well, we don't need a tank, so Particio is not necessary. Renry was also listed really high on the wiki. Let's go back to type in tier list, scroll down, sort by fire. So who else is Stellar Awakened? Let's see, Minalka is, Ewan is, Renry is, Lenaria is, Rosetta is. They're all up on the list. So looking at my team, my Rosetta is not Stellar Awakened, so she's not filling up the Stellar gauge very quickly. So I might toss her out and look for one of these Stellar characters that can do the job. Now remember that Ewan prefers Shadow users, so I'm going to look at those first. Renry, I don't have her Stellar Awakened, I don't have him at all. I don't have him at all. Sukiya. Alright. So I take a look at both Renry and Sukiya. And as usual, I scroll down to the last 2 skills first. Let's see. Restore health. Okay-ish damage. And her other skill improves fire type attack and gives me a link and so forth. So, okay, Renry Alter. Sounds pretty good. And Sukiya. Once it loads. I know it's off screen, but I can see the little spinny thing on my browser. Alright. Now Sukiya is a katana user. Oh, she can inflict pain, and that's permanent and ignores target resistance. That's definitely a nice feature. But katana users don't tend to do too much in the way of healing, so her final 2 skills, kind of modest modifiers. It restores her own health, reduces fire resistance, which is kind of nice, but at a glance I'm not seeing anything about Sukiya healing the rest of the party. Just to make sure, I check the Stellar Awakened stuff. Alright, she activates Lunatic on just herself. Awakened Blade mode, blah 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 blah. I'm seeing nothing here about healing. So between the 2 of them, I'm inclined to go with Renry. She provides a heal, she fills up the Stellar gauge faster. Let's go ahead and we can also filter by shadow. Let's get Renry Alter.
Can you help me with my
So now I got 3 Stellar Awakened characters. Does she have any gear? Not much. Alright. So let's see now if that smooths out our zone issue.
Now's the time to let loose.
Oh, I see some floating guns too. If you're not sure what that is, we just added Renry Alter, you can always, let's go ahead and go to her page. You can always go and read her description and see what's going on. And one of her Stellar Awakened skills is that she, is it Stellar Awakened or is it just, I think it's just a normal skill. She basically gives a link effect to frontline members with co-op. And that's that little floaty gun thing. Normally, you can stack co-op on the user's right. However, one of her stellar skills, she stacks co-op on all shadow users, excluding her, at the start of battle. And so, sure enough, there's 3 floating guns except for her at the start of battle. Alright, so let's see if this stellar gauge fills up quicker. We want rage. We'll go ahead and have him attack. We'll buff him. And her stellar skill automatically casts Blaze Up at the start, so let's go ahead and reduce physical resistance. Ewan's a blunt user, so that'll be nice, right? And I don't know how closely you all might have paid attention to Bag Baddie's health bar, but Ewan just did a little more damage than before. I can actually see some damage right there. Alright, we have rage, good. So at this point we can just attack with our tank. We'll go ahead and keep doing lava impact with Ewan. We just buffed Ewan, so let's go ahead and reduce type resistance on the boss and make fire damage a little bit more potent. We've cast Deal Breaker. Blaze Up was automatically cast. So in her case, the only thing left is Overload, which improves critical damage, weapon type damage, and she does her unique skill. Oh, she just did a lot of damage. And look at that. Ewan just beat Bag Baddie in 2 turns.
I could have done this on my
And he attacked again.
Hey, let's go get some grub.
So right away, using the test dummy, this combination seemed to have a better result than when I had Rosetta. And yes, I could have kept Rosetta in. Like, if you don't have Renry, I mean, you might not be able to make this exact team. I'm trying to show you, you choose a damage dealer, you choose a tank, and you try and find support characters that support this damage dealer. And then your reserves, of course, support this damage dealer as well. Alright, so we think we've hit on something. So let's go back now to Ewan. Because I'm never happy, I'm happy that I found possibly a functional team, but I want to maximize it. I'm kind of a perfectionist in that regard, as much as my free time allows me. Alright, so his true manifest weapon is unlocked. Mind you, he did that damage without a weapon at all. So the true manifests are way at the bottom now, I think. Oh, that's right. His hasn't been tempered or whatever. So, all right. Let's see. The Fiery Lion, Ewan. Okay. So my weapon is fully unlocked. When the true manifest is unlocked, you don't have to equip it to get the benefits. On the wiki, where it's normal, all this red stuff is what you gain when you unlock the true manifest weapon. That is applied whether or not the true manifest weapon is equipped at all. So that means I can equip any weapon I want to. For damage dealers, I tend to prefer equipping weapons that give 100% critical rate. So let's turn to the wiki. Let's type in weapons. And he's a hammer user. Here's a list of all of the hammers in the game. I think it's actually broken up, like level 60 and up hammers are here, and then if I click on here, maybe not. Oh, there it goes. It was just loading. So these are all of the non-level 60 hammers. Yeah. All right, but we want the level 60 ones. All right, so I can skim down the wiki and make sure again you all can see what I'm seeing. Looks like it. Looks like a little corner on the bottom right might be covered up, but you can see the top stuff. Okay. So I look to see, oh look, Rill Hammer Reforged gives me 100% critical rate and some power. That sounds great. Elpis, of course, critical rate 100% and overthrow. Overthrow, quite possibly the most overpowered feature in the game. Alright, and then keep looking. And so I just kind of skim through. Prismatic Hammer has a critical rate of 70%. That's not bad if you don't have any of these 100% weapons. Void Hammer, critical rate 100%. And we keep going and looking around. There's debuff resistance, things like that. Things to avoid. When I'm looking at this type of stuff, I just want damage. Anything that improves damage. So I'm looking for things that have boosts to power. Stuff like that. Like type debuff resistance and MP regen are not helping my damage. So I would kind of ignore stuff like the Fused T Reforged. Because aside from giving me 30 power, which a lot of other things do, none of the other effects really help a damage dealer. However, like Star Crusher improves type attack, improves power, that would be a little better. So that's kind of how I decide. Toto's Trust Hammer improves intellect. He doesn't need intellect. He's a physical damage dealer, so he wants power. So intellect is bad. Physical resistance doesn't do extra damage. Restore skill effect doesn't do extra damage. It might keep him healed for the additional attacks, but overall, this would be an absolutely horrible choice to give to Ewan. So, you know, I kind of scroll through, kind of compare what do I have, what does he need. So let's give him the Void Hammer. Now he's going to always crit, and a little added bonus, his type attack goes up. If you scroll down, his fire type damage is at 70%. If I switch to another item, it's only at 50%. So I just buffed his fire damage by 20%. So we know that he wants to stay healthy. There are a few pieces of armor that will absorb damage. The Life Changer Bracelet is one of them. So if we want him to keep attacking, we want him to heal as he attacks. So that's an option. There is a badge, and I would be lying to you if I could tell you I remembered what the name of it was. But there's a badge that also will absorb damage as health. So if you don't have the Life Changer Bracelet, Edax badge, that's kind of advanced, absorbs inflicted damage and gives him a little bit of speed, but there is one that simply just absorbs damage. I'm not going to spend forever looking for it, but anything at all that you can find where he can absorb damage. And it's possible too, if you go to the weapons, there might be a weapon that absorbs damage as health. So that one might actually be a good choice for Ewan, because you want him to keep healing as he attacks. So anyway, as far as badges, as you can tell, there are a ton of badges. If you're earlier in the game, Toto's Theater World drops badges that have ridiculously high amounts of stats, once I can actually find any of the power ones. There's some powers. So I can improve his power by 50%, but it does slice his MP in half. So as far as badges go, since he's a physical damage dealer, you want him to have power-related stuff. So you can just find whatever power badge you have. Let's do a plus 30 and give him that. Now, there's two types of Grasta that he can use. Well, I mean, technically there's a zillion types of Grasta, but if you're newer to the game or not too far along in the game, you may have things like Power of Blaze, stuff like that. Do I have anything weaker? Power of the Blaze. Fire type attacks by 20%. For people earlier in the game, let's find another one. What's this one? 30%. Yay. This is not end game material, but this is what people can reasonably expect to have, you know, chapters, what, 70-ish, 80-ish, something like that. So here we have a weapon that makes sure that he crits all the time. In his case, it's important to stay at full health, so we found a piece of armor that absorbs damage. It's not vital that you have it. Haha, Vital Flame. You could give him other armor as well, and rely on healing from other party members. Okay, Power Badge. And then all of these are improving his fire type attacks. If you're very, very new to Grasta, you might just have 3 Power of the Blazes with 20% attack. So I have a 20, a 30, and a 30. That's all I've done. Let's take a look and see how that affected things now.
I'll cut him down to size.
The rest of the party is still pretty much ungeared. Alright, we want Rage. He's going to attack. We're going to buff. And we are going to reduce physical and fire resistance on the enemy. Rage. There's his first attack. 15 million, 23 million. He attacked once. Alright. He now has Iffy's buff, and the boss has been debuffed. So now we're going to attack with Mortal Sin, which does inflict elemental fire break. He's just going to go ahead and attack again. We're going to go ahead and reduce type resistance some more. And at this point we're just going to overload because Blaze Up and Deal Breaker have already been cast. Now if you remember last time, on turn 2, he obliterated this thing. This time, on turn 2, he did not. And that's to some degree the order in which they all went. I believe if I was paying attention correctly, in the last test dummy, he went last. So at that point, Iffy had cast her buffs, Minalka had cast her break, and Overload had been cast. So we're just going to cast those again. And you'll see that now he's attacking again, and he destroyed Baghdadi. So the order of the team matters, and what determines the order? The speed. Renri's speed is 237, Iffy's is 190, Ewan's is 254, and Minalka's is 234. So we don't care about the reserves. So 237, 254, and 234. The 3 of them are fairly close. Ewan is slightly faster than the others, but speed kind of influences turn order. It doesn't set in stone turn order. There is a little bit of variance. But either way, turn 2, turn 3, he did a tremendous amount of damage. He attacked again, and he was able to destroy Baghdadi. And that was with the rest of the team being fairly weak. Like not geared or anything at all. So that is kind of how I assemble teams. Now, I don't know if I want to go into gearing or make that a whole separate video. So I guess I'll go ahead and talk about gearing now, and if this looks like it drags out too long, I might separate the videos. We'll see. Alright, let's go and heal up really quick. Actually, you know what would be a good idea? Let's do it this way. The team I've formed, actually, if I go to my fire team, actually is the fire team that I use on super bosses. So why don't we take it a step backwards, pretend like we don't have all these awesome gacha characters, and let's form a team using free characters. Well, let's still hit up the N.
As long as there's a bed, I don't care.
gearing is important, but probably the most important thing is being able to identify the character's roles. Man, it's been an hour. That thing's came back. Is to identify the character's roles and know how to interact characters together. All right. Yeah, let's take that approach. I actually did not completely intend to form my own fire team, but all right. Let's stick with fire. All right, so on the wiki, type in tier. Types fire. Okay, so let's form a free team using the wiki and using the characters I have access to, which, since it's a free team, I think I have all of them. The only one I don't have is Levia. Now I'm thinking about it, I really need to do fishing. Alright, so who are some free characters? It'd be awesome if we had like one filter that was just simply like, you know, non-gacha, but I doubt the game would do that. Alright, well, Aldo's free.
Time for adventure.
And Aldo's a half-decent damage dealer. Alright, so we have filter, fire. Alright, who else is free? Senya is free. Gildna is free. Particio, Cyrus, Ryza, Kyo, Mai, Vivi. And let's see. Harl, Garyu, Alphen Crest, Joker, Kid, Lloyd, Shion, Ashtier. Prey might as well be. Is Jade free? Yeah, he must be. It's been so long since I used him. Alright, so those are the free characters. So, let's go ahead and form a free fire team. That works. Alright, so first thing I always do, I'm back on the wiki. I'm on fire users. Who is going to be my tank? And that relies on rage. Which characters here are free that can tank? Mai, Particio, Kyo are the only three choices I have. So let's look at them. Are they tanky? Besides rage, I'm looking for things that improves physical resistance or type resistance or health, stuff like that. Stuff that will help them survive. Bonus points if I can inflict pain. Alright, so we're on Kyo. He can inflict pain. Good. He can counterattack. That's always nice. There's rage, power, attack, attack, attack. Alright, nothing else in his skill kit here looks like it would reduce incoming damage. Because if you're tanking, you want to survive. Okay, let's double check here. Win 3 power stacks. Nope. Passive skills. Anything here? Now we can deploy a bash zone. Only if there's 4 characters total. Yeah. Alright, stellar skills. Click on all the enhanced. Anything here. Alright, so I have not seen anything here that I like that will actually help him survive as a tank. He can tank because he can inflict rage. It looks like, if I'm reading this right, the power of the enemy is going to go up. So he's going to make someone mad and they're going to hit harder. Well, that's not what I want in a tank. Alright, so that was Kyo. Mai is from the same batch, the King of Fighters. So I'm kind of expecting much the same. Alright. Power and intellect decreases. Speed decreases. Blunt. Power decreases. Speed of her increases. There's the rage, which apparently powers up the enemy. Alright, so I'm pretty much seeing the same types of things on May. So the only one left is Particio. Does Particio fit the bill? And we wait for it to load. Alright, scroll down. There's Rage. Oh look, a barrier. Well, tanks like barriers. Reduces damage. Oh look, physical resistance improves. Okay, so right away, I'm liking that skill. Let's see, he reduces power and intellect from the enemy. Good, that reduces their damage. What else does he have? He can give a regen to the party. Improve type resistance. Alright, he can restore his own health and MP if I want. Alright, so I'm seeing several skills here that could probably work. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Stellar Awakened Particio as my tank. I have no idea what he said. Maybe one of you all can translate. I check his passive skills. Don't see much about tanking. Stellar skills. Let's check that out. He can restore with a single attack, which is not a high modifier. He can restore the party's health. Ooh, he can improve the max health. And then during a burst, he can actually activate guard on himself, which means all damage goes to him, no matter what that damage is. Except maybe pain and poison. And he holds ground, which means if he redirects 50,000 points of damage, he lives. So that pretty much all screams tank to me. Which means when I'm choosing skills, Wild Stallion is his stellar skill, which restores all the health, gives the hold ground, and all that stuff. Boss Has Your Back is the rage skill, so that has to be on there. And then the third one is kind of sort of up to you. I tend to prefer things that will reduce the enemy's power and intellect to reduce incoming damage. So those are the three that I have chosen for him. As always, I place the tank on the far right. So now, who is my damage dealer? The big choice. And that probably more than anything influences how you build your team. Alright, so what free characters are on the tier list? Who's the top rated one? So I'm scrolling, I'm looking. Akane is kind of free. I mean, she's so common, but Gilna. Gilna's in 95. Aldo's forms are 95 and 94. Did I skip anyone? Oh yeah, and Senya is 95. So there's kind of three options right there. Gilna, Senya, and Aldo. So if I click on Gilna, the next thing I look at is modifiers. Or multipliers. Alright, he has an 18,000 mod. That sounds amazing. Can I spam it, or is it like a one-time use? Alright, this skill can only be used once per battle. Okay, nope, don't care about that. The other modifiers, yeah, here's a 4,001. Can I spam it? Okay, fire attack adds half of the user's shadow to the multiplier. So it improves a lot if you have a very high shadow Gildna. And then it improves even more if I stack beast orbs. Well, it looks like I need 10 beast orbs to max it out. And I can stack 3 at a time if I crit, which to me tells me that 3 turns, 4 turns are what I'm going to need in order to max out Calamity skill. And then do the beast orbs get used? Let's see, when it 10 beast orbs activates distortion. What's distortion? Debuff improvement. And power, intellect, and physical resistance decreases. It doesn't say anything about removing the beast orbs. So that sounds pretty good. Stellar Awakened. Ooh, I like that. 16,000. Can I spam it? Alright. Stacks 2 beast orbs. Adds half the shadow value. Ooh, look at that. It hurts him. 40% damage on self. Alright, when used during a stellar burst, increases skill damage by 50 times. So that huge number, that 16,000, it seems to only occur as often as you can Stellar Burst. So his best spammable attack is this 4001, which takes a little bit of build up, but sounds like once you have it built up, then he can spam that pretty much indefinitely. So he's a possibility. Senya. Scroll down to the bottommost skills, make sure that all this, let's see, if he's won all duels, and equip Pearl. Okay, alright, so what are his modifiers? And there we go. Alright, so this is Senya, another style. Alright, I see a 3000, a 160, a 720. I'm not super impressed by these. The 3001 also requires me to equip a specific weapon and to have won every single duel. And I like the freedom to equip whatever weapon I want. So I'm not too sold on this modifier. Alright, here's a 5001. Can I spam it? Fire and Shade attack, buff, stacks, skill multiplier based on stacks. So I need a bunch of Blades of Strength in order to improve damage. And then it's going to stun him on the very next turn. Nothing here is screaming, I really want to use someone that every other turn type of thing. Alright, if I click on regular Cesta, he is also a fire user. Do I see modifiers that catch my eye? 1900, 1000, 720. Nothing when I click on those. His Stellar Awakened. It's a nice modifier. It's Shade. So I'm kind of thinking no to Senya. So that leaves good old boy Aldo. We'll start with his AS form. Right, anything to click on? No. Alright, so hundreds, 1120. Aha. 6400. Alright, when Demon Sword Concordance is stacked, it raises it to that amount, but then it consumes all stacks. So I can't spam it with that high level modifier. Stellar Awakened. No attacks at all, so that doesn't really help me either. So let's check out Aldo normal style. Alright, so I skim through here, see a bunch of low modifier numbers. Alright, Stellar Awakened skills. Enhanced, 11,000. Alright, it's based on his Guiding Light. And slash attack, XXL, power and speed user, skill multiplier, based on the total light shadow value, maximum of 500. Alright, and the element type changes to the elemental weakness. That's interesting. Alright, so this one looks promising because if we check out my Aldo, he does happen to have max light. Particio happens to be a light user as well. So he's adding to that light total. We're at 276 right now. So this Starworm slash skill can change if the enemy has a weakness. Otherwise, it's not a fire skill, so not thrilled about that, but it is powerful and based on light points. So we're going to go ahead and go with it as the spammable one because the rest really didn't seem super interesting to me. And then for the other skills, we go back to the wiki and we kind of look to see what might improve party buffs, what might improve type attacks. So X-Blade is looking good. X-Judgment perhaps. Things like Phoenix Slash that just simply attack 3 times, I usually tend to ignore. So you can also simply just look at the descriptions right here. So Swift Cut reduces enemies' power and intellect, always helpful, particularly for tanks. Volcano Blade improves critical damage for 3 turns and even more for light allies. Well, I got light allies. Aldo himself is light. Blaze Sword doesn't really help damage or anything, just helps prolong the fight. Dragon God Sign reduces enemies' physical resistance. That's kind of nice. Alright, when in another force, it improves the damage by 6 times and increases strength. Alright, so Dragon God Sign in another force burst sounds really good. Did I overlook something on the wiki? Let's take a look. Alright, the modifier is 1770 in another force. So that's not horrible. I mean, for free characters and all. So do I want Dragon God Sign to be the stellar or the AF burst skill or not? So let's see. I don't know. See, the problem with Starworm Slash in a lot of these, it starts at 220. It ends at 11,000. What's the in-between? Alright, so we see skill multiplier increases based on guiding light, so that's at times 10. So 220 times 10 would be 2,200, I guess. And then add light times 8 to base multiplier. So that would be 255 times 8. So it kind of sounds like Starworm Slash will probably do more damage overall, but Dragon God Sign does reduce physical resistance by a lot. So do we want to include it somewhere? Let's go ahead and use it instead of reducing enemies' power and intellect. Alright, now we need a zone setter. Even though technically Aldo's not doing fire damage. We're making a fire team. I'm just showing you how it works. Alright, so we want to go to zones. Who can deploy a fire zone? That's free. Free characters pretty much are Cyrus, Aisha, Sinya through a Valor Chant, which I don't like, so we're going to ignore that one. Garu, same thing. Alphen, same thing. We're going to ignore them. So at a glance, our choices are pretty much Cyrus and Aisha. Alright. Let's take a look at the two of them. Who's first? Cyrus. Alright. He has Fire Circle. Deploys Fire Zone. Okay, so we could use that. Does he have a fire attack of some kind? Alright. At a glance, I don't see anything, but then I read the description. It says, Raging Fire Stance, skill changes to fire. I'm like, oh, okay, so let's take a look. Does this one have the same thing? This one does water, fire, and thunder, but fire would go first. The water and thunder don't really help me. Alright, user's weak point damage changes based on the fire stance, but increases the user's weak point damage, not everyone's. So it looks like the only fire attack he has is this Glacius Claudaire, and he's not bringing that much else to the party. He can improve his own intellect. That doesn't help Aldo. He can restore 20 MP for Aldo. Yay. That's about all he does. So Cyrus, not looking super helpful. So where... Oh, Aisha, I already passed her up, didn't I? Yep. So if we look at Aisha's skill kit, Flame Serenade Deploys Raging Fire stance, and fire type attacks improves by 50%. So right off the bat, she's improving the entire party by 50%. I start reading some of her other skills. Fire resistance can decrease when in a fire zone. She can sing and improve damage by 100% for all party members while singing. Eternal Fantasia. She improves the party's power, intellect, and speed. Like, a lot of these are some major buffs or debuffs, so I'm liking Aisha way more than Cyrus. So, usually I put my zone setters first, if it's not like all automatically in a zone, so that way if I blow an AF burst, I can immediately set a zone, and then the rest of the party members will keep that AF burst going. So, we need a support character. Let's go back to tier. Check out the fire types. Who is free and a support character? And we kind of skim through. Sinya didn't really have too many buffs that were party-wide buffs. Kid. Alright, Kid's next. Does Kid bring anything to the table for the whole party? Alright, let's see. Z-Steel reduces power, improves party power, so that's not horrible right... zoom up. That's not horrible right there. Alright, Heat Shot doesn't really help the whole party. It does reduce a little bit of physical resistance. Alright, looks like the steals are her unique skill. Red Needle, fire type attack for all party members goes up. Fire resistance goes down. And then per hit modifier, so this is not sounding horrible. So Red Needle looks kind of good. Z-Steel looks kind of good. Why don't we go with Kid? So fire, and was she Katana? Did I read that right? Alright, skill. Alright, so what is going to be her spammable skill in an AF burst? Because we want to maximize that damage too. Usually I just find whatever is the highest modifier. So excluding all of those, I see a 1000 and a 705. And then I also look to see, do things stack? Because if something needs to be hit over and over and over again to stack, that sometimes can be done, and we can reach the max stacks in an AF burst. I'm not seeing anything about stacking here, so all we have is a 705 and a 1000 and some smaller items. So let's see. Heat Shot reduces physical resistance, damage for each power level. So we need power levels. Alright, Red Needle. Fire type slash. Hits fire resistance, 100% chance, turns. And again, we need power levels. So either of those honestly could probably work. And Fortune is the skill that stacks power levels. So I'm going to put Fortune in the third position. Stacks 3 power levels. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with the highest number, which is Heat Shot. So we'll put Heat Shot there. And we'll keep Z-Steel for the reduction in power and speed. Alright, so we have a semi-functional team. Without going into the reserves, the general flow of battle: always inflict rage first with your tank, unless there's certain mechanics that aren't good for that. Let's go ahead and reduce physical resistance. We will stack those power levels and deploy a fire zone. Turn 2. We reduce the enemy's power, so that way hopefully the tank can survive more. We've already debuffed there, so now let's go ahead and buff Z-Steel. Let's go ahead and reduce the enemy's power and speed. I don't like the fact that's only one turn, but... And Blaze Concerto reduces fire resistance and provides a regen, so we have our healer. Now we can attack, attack, and we can attack, which also simultaneously boosts the party's power, intellect, and speed. You saw that Aldo was doing 3 million in a hit right there. So this isn't looking too bad. Aisha can restore the party's health and MP. The whole party is fire. The only thing I don't like too much is that Starworm Slash is not a fire attack. And this is supposed to be a fire team, so it's not really gaining the benefit of the zone or anything like that. Let's just go ahead and burst with the 4 of them. We're just going to spam the first skill, and let's just see what kind of damage we pump out. See, the other issue with Aldo, since he's not doing fire attacks, he's not contributing to the AF burst, and he's not keeping it going longer. But you can see Aldo's doing like 10 million, 11 million now per hit. 12 million. And remember, we haven't even touched gear or anything like that yet. And if we burst, let's go ahead and just do Wild Stallion and Starworm Slash. And let's just go ahead and finish this up. So Aldo's doing decent damage, but we're in a fire zone. We've reduced fire resistance, we've buffed fire damage, and Aldo's not really taking advantage of any of that. So is he the best choice for a damage dealer? I kind of liked what the others brought. I didn't like how Kid, some of her skills only lasted for 1 turn, but for a free team that seemed kind of functional. I really wanted to take Japanese when I was in college, and I just could not work it into my schedule. I was a science major, too many labs. Alright, so we turn to the wiki, go back to the tier lists. Is there anyone else we could possibly use for damage? So I'm kind of just scrolling through, looking through the choices. Let's consider Sukiya. I realize she's gotcha. However, a lot of people, thanks to the free tickets that Another Eden has pumped out, she is a selectable character if you complete, I forget which chapter it was, but as you progress to the main storyline, if there's a campaign going on, and the campaign has resurfaced several times already, but you get like a character selector with some of the older characters, and Sukiya is one of them. And she is fire. So let's swap him out for Sukiya.
Let us begin.
Alright, skill time. I can look through here and try and decide what skills are best. But that doesn't tell me a huge amount. So I am going to look at the wiki. Alright, so again, I'm looking for modifiers, and I see that with the True Manifest unlocked, Scalding Serenade can do up to 3,000 modifier. It improves fire type attack of all party members. If I'm not in another force, it multiplies the damage by a whole lot. So spammable wise, not the best, but it seems to do a decent amount of damage even regardless. Alright, Stellar Awakened. Let's take a look. When used it activates Awakened Blade Mode. That doesn't tell me anything. Alright. Ascended Blade Mode. Power and speed improves by 100. Using a non-equipment skill follows up with Myriad Blaze, which is this one, which fire type slash attack on all enemies times 3 with a up to 3,000 modifier, but based on how low the MP is, or HP is. So mine is pretty much always going to be at max HP. But still, overall, Lunatic, Risk Taker, all that stuff would be active. And even without the 1100 extra damage multiplier, that means I'd still be around 2,000. So let's go ahead and try her. So that means we will spam Scalding Serenade. So I put that in skill slot 1. Awakened Blade Mode still gives the benefit of the extra power and everything, so we'll put that on there. And for the third skill, let's take a look. I can reduce physical resistance, enemies' power and speed. I can inflict pain, always helpful. And I could reduce, that's Scalding Serenade, we already have that. So do I want pain, or do I want to reduce power and speed and physical resistance? If you have another pain setter, then Shadow Slash would not make any sense, and we could do Howling Surge. So let's pretend like we do. Alright, gear for the team. Let's go ahead and clear that stuff. Alright, so pretty much the entire team has no gear whatsoever. Aisha has a bunch of hit points, and 1+8 Dreamy Staff for some extra regen. Alright, Rage. Go ahead and enter Awakened Blade. Fortune for the power, and Fire Zone. Alright, turn 2, reduce enemies' power, reduce enemies' power more, reduce enemies' power more, and reduce fire resistance, and give myself a regen. Alright, turn 3, attack, 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 and attack, with the associated buffs and heals and everything that comes with it. Alright, she just did about 6 million in damage in that one attack. Alright, we're going to blow the AF gauge and just spam all of everyone's first skills. This time, the AF gauge should continue a little bit longer because we have all fire users. And I can see that Scalding Serenade is not doing a huge amount of damage right now. Because remember that the best multipliers were when we were not in another force. But it's not doing horribly either.
Let us fight together.
22 million. And remember, this is completely ungeared. I think Aldo might have been equipped with Ogre and Quorum. Alright, and let's burst. Wild Stallion. And let's do Ascended Blade. She's did a couple of 2 million hits there. Alright. Attack, 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 and attack. Just did 10 million right there on those last 2 hits. And a few follow-ups, it looked like. So we just did 59 million in damage with a team that has no gear whatsoever. So let's take a look at this team. So we have a zone setter, a way to heal, we have a tank who has rage, we have a damage dealer that seemed to do okay-ish damage considering that she didn't even hold a weapon, and we have a support character. Now, is this the best possible combination for a fire team? Probably not. So, let's see if we can buff up Sukiya's damage. And for that, we look at personality traits. So we are going to go up here, and we can see, wow, Senya overlaps with 5 personality traits. Sukiya Alter, not surprisingly, overlaps with many traits, Akane, and so forth and so on. Alright, what Grasta are available? There's 2 Eastern Grasta, 1 Mask Grasta, and of course a bunch of Katana ones. There's an Avenger Grasta, a Royalty Grasta, Fairy Fire. Oh my gosh, where to start? Well, we could look to see, and by the way, you can click on the word like mask, for example, and here are all of the characters that have masks. So in those cases, then I look to see, are there overlapping personalities? Izuna is Eastern and Mask, correct? There's Eastern, there's Mask. So you can look around and see if you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So let's go ahead. Avenger. Are there any Eastern Avenger characters? Kikyo is Eastern and Avenger and a slash user. Leclerc, but I don't think she's Eastern. Senya, Eastern, Avenger, and a katana user. And I don't think, yeah, I don't think Tome was Eastern. Verdanta is Northern. And what is Winefica? Anything? Cursed, apparently. Alright, so Senya overlapped a whole lot with Sukiya. And Senya's free. So we're going to grab Senya. He's
ready when you
right.
are.
So we have, if we check out the personality traits, Almighty Power, Eastern, for sure. And then we have all these others. Almighty Power, Ichiryu, Enhance of Max HP, Eastern, and stuff like that. As you play, more of these become available. For right now, I think we'll just stick with Eastern. And Avenger, which I did not see Avenger on this list, so that might mean it's unique just to his normal style. Yep, there it is, Avenger. And Almighty Power Eastern. Alright, so we have some overlapping Grastas. Remember, they have to be orange and have to have that little P symbol, so that way everyone who's an Avenger gets that benefit. Alright, So if we go back to the wiki, so we have Eastern check, Avenger check. So now we want Mask, Royalty, or Fairy. Do any of them overlap? So let's try Royalty first. Are there any Mask Royalty people? And this is kind of where, if you know characters, you can go a little quicker. So Claude, there's Royalty, no Mask, no Fairy. Altina, once it loads, no Mask, no Fairy. I'm looking right there. Cynthia, Royalty, no Mask, no Fairy. So we can take hints here as well, if you happen to know who here might be Royalty, for example. So let's go back to Royalty. Alright, Garnet, Royalty only. Gilna, Royalty. Melina, Royalty. Just Royalty. Just Royalty. Royalty. And Royalty. So you can kind of go through on the wiki and search. Obviously, if you have an Ultra character, they are going to have a bunch of overlapping traits. They might not have every single one, but they do tend to have a lot. So in this case, we have Royalty and Fairy, both overlapping. No Mask. So if we switch to, I believe she was Lance. Yep. Sukiya Alter can hold another Almighty Power Eastern if I had more than one. Sometimes there's more than one, sometimes there's just one. There's Almighty Power Fairy. And Almighty Power Royalty. So Sinya now has 2 Grasta that are buffing Sukiya, and Sukiya Alter has 2 Grasta buffing Sukiya. A very easy to get early on Grasta are the Power of Element type katana. You can get those running Present Garulia, Another Dungeon, the 2 key dungeon, over and over and over again, collecting the items there, and you can spin them in the shop. The shop randomly provides you with a few of these every time you go, if you hit Zami, I believe. And if it's not there, but the shop only has 1 of every item, so once you buy an item, it won't reappear again. So basically, if you eventually buy the shop out, you will have all of the power of whatevers. So Power of Inferno Katana improves fire type attacks for all katana users. So by equipping that, Sinya is now also improving Sukiya's damage by another 30%. So that's kind of the logic there. Sukiya herself, for weapons, I'm going to give her something that, I mean, I could give her her personal weapon. It improves her power and hit points. Or I can give her things like the Void Katana, improving critical rate, type attack. So let's do that. For armor, I tend to look for anything that improves damage for a damage dealer. So let's go with Guidance Ring. It improves type attack. Badge, she is a power user. Her damage is physical, so let's say I have a plus 30 power badge. And then for Grasta, we could go ahead, as early on in the game, you probably have a few Power of Blazes that improve fire type attacks. Wonder if I can speed this up. Yep, looks like it. Alright. Fire type attack. And let's get one that's not fully awakened. So I have a 20, a 30, and a 30% fire attack. Void Katana, Guidance Ring, and Power Badge. She's the only one I have equipped. The others, aside from health, nothing. Kid, nothing. Particio, nothing. Some shared Grasta on Senya, some shared Grasta on Tsukiya. Not even a full amount of shared Grasta. Kid happens to be a katana user as well. Since Kid is not the main damage dealer, you could, if you have like the enhance if max HP katanas, enhance at low HP katanas, which would probably be really good for Tsukiya, those types of things, you could actually equip on Kid as well. You don't have to wait and do it on the reserves. No sidekick still. So let's see how those few changes, actually I'm just going to eat some food. Let's see how those few changes affect the damage. We did what, almost 60 million last time? We do the same rotation, everything. Alright, Rage, Awakened, stack some power levels, Fire Zone. Actually, by not going to the inn, I didn't start off with a full AF gauge, so my damage might be skewed a little bit because I won't have as much time to burst. Alright, reduce power, reduce power, reduce power, and reduce fire resistance, and regen. Alright, turn 3. Attack, 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 and attack. Alright, Tsukiyo's just doing 16 million per hit, 8 million per hit. Well, I guess we got the full AF gauge to work with. Alright, so we've done the exact same steps before, this time just with a geared Tsukiya, and this time with characters in the reserves that are buffing Tsukiya. So let's burst now and see what kind of damage we get this time. All I'm doing is spamming the first skill, just like last time. I can visibly see that Scalding Serenade is doing more damage. Now, of course, she is equipped with a weapon, so that always helps. But I can also see Bag Baddie's health bar decreasing a decent bit. And this time we pull off 178 million in damage. That's nice. Alright, let's check out the bursts. Wild Stallion, won't do any damage. Ascended Blade. Got a little triple attack. And each one did about 12 million in damage, that was nice. And we'll wrap it up with everyone doing one final attack. Look at that, 38 million per hit, 15 millions on the follow-ups. Bag Baddie's kind of close to half health. We did 409 million in damage with a mostly free team. So that's kind of the basics of team assembly. You identify your tank, you identify a damage dealer, and then you build a party around that damage dealer to really maximize their damage. There are some cases where you might want 2 damage dealers, and if their personality traits overlap a whole lot, it's really easy because then you're basically building them both up together at the same time. Now, I can tell that there's a storm rolling in my world, so I'm going to pause recording right now just in case the power goes out. I don't want to lose this footage. And I might make gearing a whole separate episode. So really quick, we're going to kind of summarize what we've done, because that's what we teachers, good teachers, do anyway. All right, instead of a fire team, let's go to wind. All right. So let's say that you've been collecting characters. You want to form a wind team. You go to the wiki, click on wind. We want to start with a tank, so we go to status, choose our rages. So these are all the characters that can apply rage. So let's say we have Soira AS. She's a lance user. There's our tank in the 4th position. Okay, now we want our damage dealer. So you look at the wiki, you look at usually who's at the top of the wiki. Obviously Sesta is amazing for damage. Let's go with Suzette, a more common character, I think. Now, in the real world, you would choose Sesta. There's no question. I'm just kind of trying to avoid the ultimate meta teams and just showing you how to team build. Okay. I don't know where her position is going to be yet. I just personally tend to have damage dealers 2nd or 3rd in the line. So, all right, and we want support characters. Okay. First of all, why did I choose Suzette? I went to the wiki. I looked at the modifiers, and I can see a 3000 modifier with Dragon Assault that pretty much does not require any type of build-up, so that is easily spammable. Okay. She also provides pain. Alright, support characters. Again, I would look and try to find characters near the top of the list that provide excellent support. And kind of going through the roster and everything, let's go with Malpifia. Her modifiers are very, very low, so that tells me she is a support character. And then I look to see she can improve power, speed, she can improve stats, she can activate a prayer, improve damage, healing, and inflict stacks of windbreak and everything. So it sounds like she would be a good character to use. Okay. Since she does a prayer and buffs, I want her to go first, so in an AF burst, if I'm casting skills, she goes before Suzette. And then I need a zone setter. Alright, so we're going to go and check out wind zones. Who can deploy a wind zone? Well, Suzette herself can through Bolt of Bahamut. Malpifia can, but it's through her Valor Chant, and I don't like Valor Chants. So I look to see who else can. Cyan Scyther can do it just by simply being in the front line at battle start. Nikoko ES can, with Whim of the Wind. Subami Alter can, and she can reawaken it multiple times, as can Melissa and Suzette and Melody. See, it looks like a Valor Chant. Altina needs to do that. 7, he can do it with a skill simply called Monsoon. So that might be a thought. So I tend to avoid the Valor Chants. So I'm thinking, let's go with Nikoko ES. Whom is she? Axe? Oh no, I think she's bow. Regular Nikoko is axe. Yep. Alright, what was the name of her skill? It was Whim of the Wind. Alright, so we have on this team Zone Setter, someone who can pray and buff and everything. We have a tank, we have a damage dealer. Okay, are they geared? Let's go ahead and ungear them. Oops. And just see if the flow feels right. As far as skills, we definitely want to deploy a wind zone. Alright, Ultimate God Relic improves physical damage, which Suzette does, so that's a good one. We can improve survivability with that one. Helping Paw buffs, so I like Helping Paw a lot. Out of the Bag buffs. There's a lot of good choices with her. So let's try... MP Regen is always helpful, so let's have Out of the Bag for sure. And do we want Ultimate God Relic? Or the Halo? Or Helping Paw? You know what? Let's just do Helping Paw. Now, of these three, I usually put the spammable skill in slot 1. You saw when I do AF bursts, I just hit 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the time. So in this case, she only has one attack skill. I'm going to put that attack skill first. Okay, Melpifia, her attack skill is first as well. It's her unique skill. And then we have her Prayer, Get 'em, which improves damage. And then, oh, look at that. Wabam also deploys a wind zone, so we don't necessarily need the wind zone from Nikoko. It's built into her attack, so that means we might not need the wind zone, Wabam, from her. So do we want a heal? Do we want the ability to awaken a zone, perhaps? Do we want to have a choice of prayers, because the other one is a defensive one? So when you have more than one character that can deploy a wind zone, you can go ahead and have choices with your settings. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and leave that one. Suzette, we know if we go to Suzette, according to the Wiki, Dragon Assault with her True Manifest is her spammable skill, so I always put that one first. Demonic Thrust reduces power and intellect. It's a nice little debuff, gives pain, and then she can redeploy an awakened wind zone over and over with Bolt of Bahamut. Now, this does bring an interesting question. Which is going to be her spammable skill? Well, Bolt of Bahamut can go up to 4,200%, ignores target defense, attacks 3 times, but it consumes an Ancient Despair every time it's used in order to increase damage. So that means the damage is not fully sustainable. At some point when you run out of Ancient Despairs, the damage is going to decrease. Dragon Assault, click it and forget about it. There's nothing that will eventually lower it. As long as it has pain and poison, it will always be hitting 3,300%. So I'm kind of favoring that one. Your results may vary. Soira, spammable attack skill in the first slot, and it happens to reduce power and intellect, and it stacks, which means the more I use it in an AF, the weaker the enemy will become. Perfect. It also is her rage skill. And then being a tank, I can improve her resistances. She can gain a shield as long as I'm in a zone, and I can give party resistance. I could have physical resistance. You know, I could kind of go wherever I want with her. So I've chosen those 3 for right now. So we have our tank, damage, support. And we have our zone setters before Suzette. We have our buffers before Suzette. And let's just see what this looks like. Buff, zone. We'll just reduce power, inflict pain, and rage. Remember, they are all unequipped right now. Now that we have Rage going, we can improve resistances. I could use Bolt of Bahamut if I want to, or I'll just start attacking. We'll go ahead and start praying and get damage going. We did Helping Paw, so now let's go ahead and do Out of the Bag. I wonder if y'all can hear that thunder through my recording. Alright. Third turn, we'll just do all ones. 1, 1, 1, 1. It's all the attack skills. And we now have an awakened Wind Zone. Alright, and just like before, turn 4, we'll go ahead and blow the AF burst. Spam all ones. That will also max out all of these stacking debuffs that Soiro will do, even though we're already at 2 stacks. So, 1, 1, 1, 1. And we're just hitting ones. You'll see, completely unequipped, Suzette is doing 11 million, 15 million, now 17 million, 20 million. Suzette's damage is just going up every single attack. So we just did 281 million by realizing every character's role and building a team around the damage dealer. Alright, let's go ahead and finish this up. $300 million in damage. Actually, I had to double check and make sure. Sure enough, Suzette is not equipped with anything. So let's go ahead and equip her. Let's say that we get a Void Lance. She will always crit, though technically her skill always crits anyway. We'll give her the equivalents as well. Guidance Bracelet for type attack. She is a physical damage dealer, so she wants power. So we'll give her a plus 30 badge. She is a wind user. So we'll do some very simple. There's a power of gust. Power of gale. And those aren't even awakened. No, we'll just go with those two. Okay, so that's 60%, 20 from gust and 40 for gale. In the previous example with Sukiyo, we had, I want to say, 3 30s, or it was like 120 and 2 30s. So this is actually a little less. Alright, Suzette. Personality. Let's go ahead and refer to the wiki. Sweet Tooth. Gourmet, which does not have a Grasta. Lost Lab. Wind and Lance, of course. So Sweet Tooth and Lost Lab. This time, let us go to the board, actually. Oops. Let's go down and find Sweet Tooth and Lost Lab. This is either one or the other, but those are the characters that I have access to. I thought there was an option where you can set it so that they must have both personality types, but I guess not. Alright, so Sweet Tooth and Lost Lab. So, and I just know from personal experience, Sweet Tooth on some of them. So you can just click on ability, and you can actually just scroll through this way. So Sweet Tooth and Lost Lab, that's Suzette. Sweet Tooth only. And we're looking just to see if anyone happens to have both besides her. Sweet Tooth, Sweet Tooth, Lost Lab only, Sweet Tooth, Lost Slab and Sweet Tooth. Oh look, Curio! And he's free. Perfect. Whoops. So he can, let's get rid of that equipment. So he can hold personality Grasta types, Lost Lab, and Sweet Tooth. Now Suzette is a Lance user and a Wind user, so it's usually a good idea to try and find another, at least Lance user in the back row. Oh, we need to turn off the personality Grasta. So Garum Barrel happens to fit both. So he can hold things like, if we switch to Lance, he can hold things like Power of Gale Lance, which again is accessible once you can get to Present Garulia, another dungeon. He could hold other Lance type things like Enhance if Max HP Lance, for example. Or he could hold Wind type. So if you have anything shareable wind-wise. Though I found that like Enhance if Max HP Wind is more, it falls under personality instead of wind, which always kind of confuses me. So kind of your choice on, let's go ahead and do another Enhance of Max HP. So 2 Enhanced Max HPs, which do stack, and Power of Gale Lance. So he is buffing Suzette. Curio is buffing Suzette. And the other characters are still running around naked. And she still has 1 Grasta slot left. Which, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the Power of Pain series is actually the preferred Grasta for damage dealers, not the type Grasta. I was just using type Grasta because it's usually the first one that's accessible. So if you have like Power of Pain Lance, things like that, as long as the enemy has pain on them, this is always the better choice. So let's go ahead and just do Power of Pains, because Suzette automatically puts pain on everything at the start of a fight if she is Stellar Awakened. So there's another Power of Pain. And Power of Pain. So no ores, just Power of Pains. Okay, so there's Suzette. So Suzette, geared, rest of the party, naked, Curio and Garum holding shareable Grastas that are designed specifically to support the chosen damage dealer.
Am I in the right place?
Alright, turn 1, we want Rage. We want to go ahead and reduce power and intellect and inflict pain if pain was not already there. It's already there because she's Stellar Awakened, but if you don't have her Stellar Awakened, you need to apply pain now that we have Pain Grasta equipped. Go ahead and start praying. Actually, you know what? She'll set the zone. And we'll go ahead and buff. Alright, so far, modest damage. Nothing exciting. Alright, turn 2. We've gotten Rage going, so now we need to make sure that our tank survives, so cast some type of resistances. She can start attacking. We'll go ahead and start praying, and we'll do another buff. Alright, Suzette just did 30 million in damage. Alright, we'll attack, 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 and attack. Suzette just did 200 and almost 40 million in damage just from that one attack. In part because she's geared, in part because of the pain Grastas. But you can see that Bag Batty is already down maybe about 30% of his health. So now let's blow the AF gauge. We're in an awakened wind zone. We're praying, and we're going to watch the numbers. Every time Suzette goes, there was 162 million. Right, now the numbers have dropped. Why have they dropped? Bag Batty has been defeated. Take a look, all of his debuffs, pain, etc. drop. When an enemy is fully defeated, they lose all their debuffs and everything, so then obviously that affects the damage calculations. So on turn 4, we built a team around Cesta, so used to saying her, Suzette, and we were able to destroy Bag Batty. So we chose our tank, we chose a damage dealer based on the wiki, looking at modifiers and finding a skill that I could spam that would probably max out its modifier without like losing the modifier later, like consumes all stacks of something or whatever. We chose reserve characters whose personality traits match up with the damage dealer, and we chose support characters that can deploy zones, that can do prayers, that can cast buffs, cast regen, keep the party alive, whatever. So that team just destroyed Bag Batty with... Now the Void Lance is... I don't want to say it's an easy weapon to get, because a lot of people, as you're progressing through the game, have not gotten to that point. But the Void Lance is really the only item here that's hard to get. Anyone can find a power badge. Guidance Bracelet and the Power of Pains are fairly early Grasta. These Power of Pains don't even have any upgrades. And you'll notice that in all of those, I did not ever use Suzette's Bolt of Bahamut at all. So I did all that damage just, I mean, yeah, she's level 100, but I did all that damage with her regular attack and true manifest weapon. And then we can factor in sidekicks, you know, characters like Iridian, who are free from the Riz saga. Iridian can restore health and MP at the end of every single turn, and he happens to be a wind user, which means he'd be really good with the wind team. In fact, when things take wind type damage, that enemy does even less damage to the team. He weakens them. So Iridian would be a good sidekick for this team. And then other sidekicks, if you have access to sidekicks at this point, you can kind of look through and decide. Like if I click on Limmel and click on Stats, I can see that sword, katana, and axe users benefit from Limmel. Well, I'm using a Pierce character. So then I check the aura. Dazzling slash stance. If it's deployed, slash users do more damage. Again, I have a Pierce user, so therefore Limmel is completely worthless to this party. Let's take a look at Moke. Enemies' power and intellect decrease. That's always nice, that kind of helps everyone. On weak point damage, all critical damage will improve. Well, if I'm fighting something weak to wind, then Moke would be a great choice for this, because he will weaken the enemy with his auto skill, and he will improve Suzette's critical damage the second she hits, or anyone hits, the weakness for wind. So Moke could be a good choice. If you're looking for other free characters, Kuamaru, he does slash attacks, and slash resistance can decrease, so if your main damage dealer is a slash user, sword, axes, and katanas, Kuamaru is a great free choice. But you can just kind of go through, if you're using a fire team, for example, Kurobo, the second an enemy takes fire damage, their power and intellect permanently, rest of the fight, decreases by 25%. However, he's a double-edged, I guess we'll go with he. He is a double-edged sword, it can also affect allies. If a boss hits you with fire damage, you reduce your power intellect by 25%. So that's not good. Moke is not like that. The target is only the enemies. It does not say allies. So when you're choosing sidekicks, that's something to look forward to. So that's, again, how you assemble a team. Kind of, sort of making sense a little bit? Let me know in the comments, because I have not really gone into too much depth for gearing. That might be Team Building 102, maybe. But 101, bottom line, find a damage dealer, find a tank, find support. Examples for my super boss teams. Let's switch. Okay. My Earth team, Shannon is a damage dealer, Bertrand is a tank, Claude and Myunfa, Alter, are support. Shannon's personality traits: Sword, KMS, Amnesia, Dog Lover, and Earth. Well, Alter Shannon and regular Shannon, aside from who they love, still have Sword, KMS type traits. And Deirdre is an Earth user, Sword user, so a lot of traits overlap there. My Water team, Verdanta, damage dealer. Annabelle, normal style, is the tank. Support characters are supporting Verdanta. She's a sword user, and an Avenger. So Aldo is a sword user, and Tomei is an Avenger. Sesta is Besta, of course. Shiguri is the tank. Sesta is a damage dealer. Everyone else built to support Sesta. My fire team, which I inadvertently built at the beginning of this video. Minalka is the tank. Ewan's a damage dealer. Support, and then support. Obero and Azuna are both damage dealers, and Sukiya's personalities actually overlaps both of them. So this is an example where you can have two damage dealers in a Thunder team. You have Orlea as your tank, support. Nilia, damage dealer. Thalil Lily, second place damage dealer. Zone setter, tank. Damage dealer, support. Pseudo tank, he has a lot of defensive personalities. And then back row supporting Shanghua. So that's kind of how we form teams, or at least how I form teams. There are specific bosses that require specific team setups, but for probably about 90% of the game, you can take this approach, and if you have the characters and if you have the gear and Grasta, it's going to work. So I hope this video helps you kind of putting things together. I realize this is probably a long video now that I'm looking at the time. The storm is actually winding down, so yay. But I just wanted to give something to you all if you're returning to the game, if you're new to the game, kind of Team Building 101. So I hope this helps. Casual Crono, signing out.